You are listening to podcast Art and Money. My name is Marju Sokman, and at the moment I'm on my way to Mireille Guiliano's solo exhibition here in Tallinn. Welcome to the podcast Art and Money. We're going to talk about art and money and how people think about it, how the artists are thinking about it, collectors and general public and investors. Today we have here Mireille Guiliano and Annely Raun. And these are really interesting guests, at least for me. I'm super honored to talk to you today. Mireille, you have been inventing yourself several times. We can say there was Mireille 1.0 when you were in champagne business, 2.0 where you were a writer, full-time writer, I would say, 6 best-selling books translated into 40 languages. And now Mireille 3.0 as an artist, as a painter into visual arts. This is amazing. And what fascinates me the most is your attitude. How you look, the mindset of aging with attitude. I want to hear everything about how to shift from one role into another. Where do you get the ideas and where do you get the courage to do that? And then we have Annely. Annely has been an entrepreneur, and Annely is the person behind the fact that Mireille is at the moment here in Tallinn in Estonia, and Annely is showcasing her exhibition. So we want to hear that story. That's a really interesting story. How all those tiny steps fall into together, and now we have both of you here in the studio. So let's start with you, Mireille. How easy it is to switch from one to another, from one field to another. How did you start in champagne business, and what made you to do the jump into writing?
Well, thank you, first of all, for being here. Is a really, really great pleasure. But you kind of don't plan these things, in a kind of way of finding your career or your life. You sort of fall into it. But my first step in life was languages. I was trained in languages, so working in Champagne became kind of a way of life early on, because I was in New York and everything fell into place, but it was not my training. And then, once you enjoy what you do, you look at work differently. It's not work anymore. It's like fun. And so I was very lucky because I never thought I would have so much fun working. And it becomes kind of infectious because you enjoy what you do. And I was lecturing, I was teaching people how to open a bottle of champagne. I was teaching them about French culture, what it was, what it meant. And it was highly enjoyable because I had an audience. It's like people were fascinated, especially in America, in the 80s and 90s, people were discovering wine, were discovering traveling and going to France and what parts of France. So they were interested in everything French. So you couldn't go wrong telling them anything because they were like, there was a thirst for knowledge. And it was, lots of fun. So it was an easy kind of career. I didn't see it as a career. It was just a wonderful way of living one's life.
And you were in champagne business over 2 decades, right?
Yes.
And suddenly, one moment, you were top of the top, working together with super famous, super rich people. Yes. And you decided, that's it. I'm going to take the pen and start writing now.
Well, again, sort of. It didn't quite happen that way. I was always at lectures, I was talking about the French lifestyle and the French life, and people would see me, in restaurant eating and drinking champagne, and they said, how how can you stay in shape, doing all this? And,
Valid
I was,
question.
yeah. And I was not going to tell them my life story and how I was fat and I was overweight at some point. And so I would kind of casual say, well, French women don't get fat. And why don't they get fat? And little by little, that kind of spurred, a light in my head, and I had a friend, and I helped many friends, in a casual way, and in a sort of private way. And one day, a man said to me, you have to write this book because you saved my wife's life, and even if you save just a few lives, it's worth it. And I thought, yes. And, little by little, other people said that to me, and I decided, well, maybe I will write this book. And when I wrote it, I realized it was a conflict of interest with my professional life. And as you said, I had been working for 20 years, and I thought, well, there are young people in my company who can take over. I don't need to be there. And I told my boss, at the end of 205, and he said, no, you can give your right.
You can do both.
You can do both and get, help from your staff and blah, blah, blah. And that worked for a little while, but not that long, because I was traveling all over the world, and I realized I couldn't do my day job at night and, go and lecture about my book and still work for my company. So I decided to separate both and worked on the book, which was more than a full-time job for many years.
It was a wild success. I mean, it's translated into so many languages, and you did book tours as well. You were traveling all over.
I went around the world 3 times, basically, over 7 years. And that was exhausting.
And never popped to Tallinn.
Yes.
So far.
Yes. But I went to Vilnius, I went to Warsaw, I went to Tokyo, all over. And it was very exciting and very challenging to see how different audiences were kind of thirsty of the French way of life, and,
Everybody had the same problems.
Yes.
Probably.
And that was universal, how do you do it and why?
And it was cross-cultural. I think that's also one of the advantages or one of the interesting points, because we all are coming from different backgrounds, and you always compare. How often do you travel between Paris and New York? You always can compare two cultures.
Yeah. Well, for my work, I was going there every month, for executive committee in the beginning, and for a long time. It was a man's world, and I was the only woman involved in it, and I had to go, back and meet with these people, and little by little things changed, but it took a long time, and that was not so easy at the beginning, but you develop. To me, it was through humor, a sense of humor that you could gain, because these men were, men take themselves very seriously and have very set ideas. And so, and I was very young too. So, I was 35, 40, and my financial, number 2 was 55, and my marketing people, my sales people were older. So, and then you build in and you hire young people, and it changes and it becomes more crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But more open.
Yeah, true. Did you feel some pressure on you, that you had to work more, or kind of?
Oh, sure. Especially, I would say, the first 5 to 10 years. You, as a woman, you really have to prove yourself, and it's not a given, But I was very lucky because it was a young company, and we had, we were only going up. And so they left me alone. After a while, it was well, whatever she's doing, with her team, it's working. So
Let her be.
So yeah, let them work, and it worked out fine for 20 years. It kept, going up and up and up. So it was the right company and the right work to do in those days. Today it would be a big challenge, a new challenge. I'm not sure it would be so exciting anymore.
If I may ask, in terms of you melting in this men's world, and how did you learn, or is this culture that comes from behind, that lies in your veins and in your blood? Can we learn how to be elegant, and or this is, I really think it's something, an X factor. You either have it or. How did you do it?
Yes, I guess maybe you develop it, you don't learn that in business school or interpreter school or at the university. And how do you deal with all these men? Many who were very old-fashioned, or many who were very greedy and wanted, numbers and all that. And it was kind of an education for me to how do you deal with all of them? But I think soft power, what I call, understate it and show them, don't tell them, show them that you're going to do it. Show them results. And it's then, they bite, and they, and the French way was very different from, I had mostly American staff. And then I'd go to France, and I had Frenchmen and who didn't really understand the U.S. and, the mentality. But generally speaking, I think, not taking yourself seriously helped. And humor. That was a great, great lesson.
You were the link between the two worlds, between the two cultures. Yeah. And I love that you said, show, don't tell. This is definitely something that you carried into your books as well, and into your writing, with all examples and your personal stories. It's not so much about just educating or telling, do this, don't do that, or how you do it and how you live with those principles.
I remember one little anecdote that, just came to my mind right now, but it was very funny in those days. In the US, we did Halloween parties because of the color of Veuve Clicquot, which was yellow on orange on the label. And one year, I forgot what city we had it in, but we had these kind of fake tattoos, people could put, and it was the anchor, of Madame Clicquot. So when she was sending on champagne to other countries. And so I had that tattoo left. And I was flying to Paris for a very important budget meeting. And budget meetings were not fun, because you had to talk money. And I never liked to talk money. But you had to do it. So I was there with my financial guy and all that. And we had a very tough year because we wanted to do some, you move on and your business grows, and sometimes you have to explain how you have to invest the money and, not cash it in and all that. And so these guys were looking at my hand, and I don't know how I phrase it, but I managed to get the budget passed through my tattoo, and
you took the edge off for everybody,
Yeah, they couldn't understand how this businesswoman had a tattoo, I mean, this was like in Champagne, it was unheard of, and they were mesmerized in a way.
And it works.
And it worked. And at the end, and then we have a break, we go to lunch, and we had a glass of champagne, and everybody's having a good time. And meanwhile, I said to my financial guy, the budget, it passed.
It's approved.
It's approved. So, you have to find ways, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But generally speaking, for me, it worked through the first 10 years, which were the hardest years because we're building and adding staff and not making enough profit. And then, it got to the point where, wow, now we're going to expand, and we have the money, and we can reinvest and grow, and the image was there. So, it takes a while, and if they let you do it, and I was fortunate because they said, okay, it's a big country, we don't understand it, how do we, and let her do it, if she fails, she's out, and if it works, it works. But we went from like 3 people in 1984 when we started, and when I left in 2005, we had 120 people.
Wow. What a growth.
And from one brand to a whole portfolio of wines from all over the world. So it takes, but it's fun. It was a wonderful way of creating something that everybody said it's not possible. I like this kind of thing.
You like challenge.
Yeah, I like challenge.
The champagne business and wine business, it looks like it has this very classy image, and it feels like there's a lot of money in it as well. And our podcast, as it's about art and money,
yes,
you probably were in a pretty good spot economically as well at that time. And then you took the jump into the writing world where success wasn't guaranteed. Yeah, you had the signs from other people around you that these topics are important and they need the answers and your point of view. But you didn't know what the future brings if you just...
No, I certainly didn't think it would be a bestseller. I thought, well, maybe a few 100,000 copies. It's a big country.
Yeah.
But it just went, well, it was very lucky because the buzz was, when the copies were sent to the press in New York, one TV station wanted to do a major, 20-minute segment, and national. And that's
that's a huge thing.
People
in the
dream
States.
about it, yeah. And if you write a novel, it's very unlikely this is going to happen. But this was a hot topic, which I didn't realize. It's not that it's luck in a way. But someone in the TV saw the book on a desk and took it and said, "Oh, I want to do that segment on 20 minutes." And for that, it took 2 weeks of shooting. A podcast, an hour, and then you cut it. Well, for 20 minutes, it was 1 week in New York where they follow me all day long, and then 1 week in Paris with a crew of people.
It was a documentary.
Yes. And it was like, wow. And that, in a way, was, millions of people saw it. If you had to pay for it, I don't know, it would cost a fortune. But it really launched the book, and then from that, every other station wanted it, every magazine, and it sort of, caught me unaware.
It was snowballing.
That's where I said, I can't do this and try to do it well and do my work. It's one or the other.
And that's how your brand as a writer or as an author was born. And how do you feel like next you wrote another set of books, 6 books altogether? I'll ask Annely, what's your favorite? You have read them all.
I have read, I do not have in my hands Estonian copy of Paris and Oysters.
It's Meet Paris Oyster.
Yes,
last one.
The last one. I'm not even sure if it's published in Estonian. The last book I bought this summer, and it was this the French women do not get facelifts.
Yeah.
That's another podcast how I find this book because it's all sold out, and it was an adventure to find one unused copy in Estonian language, and it was worth it. This is on my desk. I'm reading it, and I would say that your books are so evergreen. The content is the essence of, I would say, French elegance, and the titles, even if it says, let's say, French women do not get fat, or French, which is also the name of our exhibition, French women for all season, let's say the year round, how to live. This is a lifestyle. You have been acclaimed lifestyle guru, and that is really something that people wish to imbibe from your books. So there is this between the lines, how to live better, I would say, because I really believe that we really just want to live better daily. That doesn't mean on a materialistic side. This is just we want to experience something more, a bigger slice of something, and not only in terms of money, but in terms of, let's say, art and wine. This brings you closer. If you are aware, and then you suddenly feel that it brings to you closer. In art, which is creation, I very much believe that it is the positive energy. It is carrying really positive energy, and I would say the same thing about wine. Wine is something that carries emotion, history, let's say family, traditions, culture. Wine is so rich in essence, and that is really something that we should drink, not red or white liquid. Let's say champagne. Last October I went to the cinemas to watch Madame Clicquot, this basic story, how it all started. And this is a remarkable businesswoman, this Madame Clicquot. So what was the question?
What was your favorite book? But we got
yeah. So
really
I would say that it has been. I have discovered different phases of my life. I mean, the top notch is, of course, this. What is behind the mysticism that French women do not get fat?
Yeah, because we all have been on the streets of Paris eating a croissant and looking at the others and thinking, how did they do it? First of all, they are so elegant and stylish. And
what is with this? Yes, and after that, let's say at some point I very much enjoyed this naised, töö ja elamise kunst. I don't know how it's in
women work and art of living.
Art of living, basically this, yes. So I have traveled with your books, meaning that I go to a business meeting in Milan, in Tuscany, and these are like conspects. Oh, I should do that. Yes. But you don't actually get the knowledge only from the book. You have to practice. That's something that you have to practice, and you have to have these opportunities to practice, because when you're at home, then that's another level to practice at home and to bring this culture in. So different books, all enjoyable. From my the cooking books, we have discovered leek, porolauk, which is something to cook with, thanks to Mireille, and my husband is on leek.
That's nice, on a leek diet. But moving on from the books to the art world, what was your life growing up regarding culture and art? Were you surrounded by it? Were you in art schools? Was your family into art?
No.
Where did
No,
how
nothing.
did it happen?
Nothing.
At what time you felt like
only,
I drop the
only,
pen and take the paintbrush?
Yes, yeah, that didn't happen actually. It was a dream, but it came later. The same with writing, you know. I never thought I would write a book. It's not in my mindset, but I think coming back to the book, you know, which wasn't my idea, but sometimes you can't fight with a publisher. You know, they wanted the title, Women Don't Get Faceless. I'm not really interested in that because beauty comes from within, you know. It's like, so then I don't make judgment of people who use needles or do whatever they want, but you know, you wear your life on your face no matter what, so it's okay. I mean,
is that the aging with attitudes?
Yes,
kind of mindset.
But the attitude aspect, it's something that I would have liked the book to be called, you know, French women know how to age, you know, or don't age, or age well. Or age in a way because they have an attitude. The word attitude is key to me because it's a way that I learned through business, and sometimes it's tough, you know. You don't have to be mean, but you have to be strong and firm in what you believe. And I think in the French culture, and my mother, you know, the basic values. And in art, it's the same thing, you know. How you become an artist, or you know, what is it to be an artist? You learn these things maybe step by steps, or you fall into it. But to me, as a kid, you know, and that's something we owe to French culture, because French culture is very, very important, and it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be rich or, you know, to be exposed. I mean, we go to, in my little village in the south of France, to concerts, and you know, the butcher next to you talks about opera like he's read all the books on operas, you know. So don't judge that, you know. You don't have to have a higher education to know, and no. And it's the same about art, you know. How do you get into it? How do you paint, you know? But a lot of people think, well, you know, you can't make a living from being an artist, and that's probably true for most people. And I was just lucky because I don't need to, you know, to have an exhibition to sell my work, or if it's even sellable. But some people like it, and some people think, you know, I mean, in New York, for example, the prices are very high, and I find that like kind of obscene. But, you know, there are people who look at art as an investment, and they collect art.
How do you look at art?
I don't look it as an investment. I looked at a piece, you know, if I am in a gallery or somewhere and I like a painting, I figure the painting is going to be in my home if I can afford to buy it. And I look at it in a totally different way. It's what it brings to me. That's why I don't need a title, because whatever the painter did might not be what I see in it. You know, it's a kind of coup de foudre, you know, you fall in love with a painting. But there are different people who look at art as an investment, or collectors, you know, collectors collect stamps or books and spend a lot of money on it and gets a lot of pleasure. And it's the same with art, you know, if you can afford. I mean, some people could have a museum. They have so many pieces. But a lot of people just have a couple of pieces in their home, but they mean something to them. And that's what I like, you know. In Paris, one Parisian lady who had gone to a lecture of mine when on the first book, French Women Don't Get Fat, 20 years ago, came and she bought 2 paintings.
Did she buy them because she liked the paintings, or maybe also your personal brand was coming?
Maybe, you know, I never know, but she had to have them. And she said, you know, she's a young woman, maybe in her 40s, and she has a good job. And I don't think she's rich, but she liked the fact that, the money would go to charities.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another aspect. It's kind of unusual because most artists, sell art to pay their rent.
Yes.
And I didn't have to do that. And I said, well, if someone wants to exhibit my art, then they have to agree that this is going to go to my charities, And to me, it's seeing it as, another kid is going to be able to go to dancing school or take music lessons or go to a trip because it's higher education. There are all levels.
But how do you decide to which charity the money goes, or you have foundation? Or
I have a foundation now with my husband who does the same thing with, his money. Because we have enough to live well, and we think that we should share it.
To get back to that.
So it's a great way to do it. But it wasn't planned that way. Same with the book, same with the art. At some point, I just had no room left to paint anymore, and I said, we're too old to get a bigger house, so we have to get rid of it.
When did you start painting? When did it
About
happen?
15 years ago, but all my life, you asked that question before, we didn't have art in school. We didn't even have drawing classes. So, but I always had, picture books and, having family all over France, different art forms. But it was really when I went to Boston as an exchange student, and then I was taken to museum, and then I started reading books about art. And of course, when I was a Paris student, I went to the Louvre and always went to galleries and read about it. And probably in my mind, I would have liked to be an art historian. I love art. And but I never thought about sitting down and painting until a little boy stayed with me and said, can you teach me how to draw? And I like, oh.
How do you say no to a kid?
Yes.
Of course you don't.
And we started buying watercolor, and we started like that. And then, of course, I read and I looked, at other people. And I live in a village also in south of France filled with artists. So that was a good introduction.
Who are the biggest names where you draw your inspiration?
Well, in the south, you have light, and you have, Van Gogh and Matisse and Cézanne, and but so many, and then American artists, and then foreign artists, abstract. You also evolve because that's one thing about me, I couldn't have had the same job all my life. And maybe, now young people, they know they're going to have 6 or 7 careers. But I had that, and maybe because I started traveling very young, which was in those days kind of unusual.
Yeah.
But it gave me a kind of approach to life that was different, that, of course, move on, done that, been there, done that. So what's next?
So you're following
and
your
I'm very
curiosity.
curious,
Yeah.
and that's going back to the attitude, attitude is to be curious, and it's very important in aging process. I have friends who are 10 years younger, and they are retired, and they have such a boring and limited life. They're afraid to do things, or to take risk, or to turn a page and do new things, Oh, I can't do that. Well, of course, well, try. How do you know you can't do it if you haven't tried, And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So try something else. But I've always been like that. And I think that's in my family. My mother was like that, and always, hard worker, but also very curious, very creative, never say no, always be excited and find pleasure in little things, and then you don't know how they'll grow, and all that sort of bundles up and comes into something sometimes,
Absolutely. Mindset is so important.
Mindset,
And there's a saying that you are the average of the 5 people who surround you. And you have had people from the champagne business times, then loads of artists, other writers perhaps, or people in the publishing industry. How true is that sentence for you? That who's your social circle around you, and how much do they influence you?
Parisians.
Oh, yes. Well, you know, you come back to your roots. The French culture is really much, much, much deeper than people think. And especially my generation, where you're brought up about le siècle des Lumières, you know. In a way, not Louis XIV himself, but maybe his mistresses were very bright and very talented and very knowledgeable and gave him a lot of tips. But the culture came from that period. Education, painting, the crafts, the savoir-faire we have. And that still exists today. It's getting harder to find people who want to pursue it and you know, have the courage to work at it, because it's not so easy, you know, to make a bag or to, you know, there are machines, but there's a lot of handwork and precise, and you have to have some discipline, and maybe, you know, young people are not always anxious to be so disciplined to learn, so they want fast, and you know,
it's hard.
It's hard. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. It's hard because, you know, I mean, even the champagne business people said, "Oh, you have such a great job," and
It looks
you know,
so
but
glamorous.
It looks so glamorous. Exactly. You're in restaurant, fancy restaurant. You travel, you this and that, and you drink champagne. I mean,
How hard
sounds
can it
perfect. But behind that, there's a lot of hard work. Yes, and that's true for writing, and that's true for painting or anything you do.
Absolutely.
It's generally speaking, it doesn't, you know, come easy, but it's the approach you have, it's the attitude you have of doing it, and you don't think about hard work. You know, it's a pleasure. It's exciting to learn and to fight and to, you know, to write a proposal and even to fail. You know, you learn from your mistakes and your failure, and you try to do it better next time. So it's a philosophy, it's a lifestyle,
But are the people around you with the same mindset? Are they supporting? Are they, I mean, the closest people to you?
Yeah, friends. I mean, I know a lot of friends, you know, told me, because women in general, you know, and I noticed that, and I learned that from working with men in a men's world. Men are very, you know, they'll never say they're afraid to do something, or they're strong, you know, and even if they're not. Women are fragile. We have low self-esteem, we have no confidence, we're afraid of things, we're afraid of doing things, so we have a lot of that. And once you have the attitude and you build, you know, and you build that strength, and that's why I said to young women that I mentor, that, you know, yes, you can do it. You can do it. And I had encouragement from men on that, from my husband to my boss to, oh, of course, Mireille, you can do it. And, you know, if there's a way of doing it, of saying it, that makes you feel, okay, maybe I should try, you know, not giving up. You know, it's too easy to give up. Try, you know.
You have influenced so many women, I think people, but women especially, to take the step to try different career or different project. And you have done it via the books. But when we turn to Annely, you also have done it by just answering to one personal email.
Yes.
And that's basically the reason why your exhibition is now in Tallinn. Annely, maybe you could tell us the story, because it was really intriguing.
Yeah. Yes, I didn't plan it. It wasn't something that you do it strategically. what I planned was that this in the beginning of this year, I took all my inspirational books and my family, I say all my kittens, and we drove to Tuscany. It was a plan that I could focus on my book that I want to write about, let's say, this French lifestyle in connection with wine, because I'm not going to get into this right now, maybe another podcast, but so how wine itself has affected by or historically, especially wine producing countries, and why we see people the way they are right now. That was the core. And when I scrolled the pages, I have read your books, and it was just, why don't I write to the source? And I can recall myself in January writing this email, and because I got the inspiration. The neighbors were really noble people in the area, 25 generations back, let's say from Firenze, and the roots go back to France, wine growers. And I met them, and maybe I felt empowerment, and I can do Mireille as well. I write her, and in 2 weeks later, I can remember the beginning of February, this Sunday. I told my husband, I have reply. It probably her administration is giving a reply that Mireille is not replying.
Not available, very busy.
She's yes, and it was such a rich reply with the first email ever, invitation to her exhibition in Paris in June. So I read it, I jumped a couple of times, and I said, I'm gonna be in Paris in June. So
that's the thing with Estonians. Even when you are just giving an off remark, you can always come and visit me, like people sometimes do. Estonians are really remembering it. Yes, I'm gonna go.
and of course, 6 months ahead, you think, let's say if it's gonna happen, and if there's invitation for real. But I kept in contact, and on a monthly basis, I wrote to Mireille, and I sent some pages to overlook, and this feedback was like, this was awesome. This feedback should be actually a part of
her next book. Mireille, but what you were thinking, there was a lady also working in wine business, then turning or following the idea and curiosity to write a book about it, and was just writing to you. You didn't know her before, but you felt like, why not to answer? Or do you answer your fan mail? Or
no, it's a good point, because I still, after 20 years, get mail, not hundreds of thousands like at the beginning, where I had to have staff to help me read and sort it. And a lot of them don't require answer, or are kind of silly question, like, I'm doing this recipe and I don't have parsley, what should I use? And I can't answer that anymore, but I get some that I feel require an answer, whether it's help for their weight or whether it's advice for something. And I get a lot of people, women, who want to write books. Wow. All sorts of books, not only, business books, novels, and some I have experience with, some I don't. But when I got her email that asked about a book in wine, I've had a few, but mostly a long time ago and in America. And her sounded really different. And I think today is a challenge with the new generation. And, there's drinking wine, and there's getting drunk and doing all these things with girls, and that are very unhealthy. So someone needs to set the record straight and teach people what is really so wonderful about a glass of wine with your food, because wine is food, but it's how you use it and what you do with it and how you serve it and all the rituals around it. But it's so much, it's so complex and at the same time simple, but you have to make it fun for the new generation so that they don't become alcoholics, or they don't mistreat it or negate it, or that they have a choice, that they can respect it and what they can do with it. And I think I see some trends, in France and the US about new approaches, and I think she has an approach for Estonia and for other countries, but for a young generation that to me spoke as something really intelligent to do. So I gave her my 5 cents,
mentorship,
as we said, 5 cents advice, because I don't know the country and I don't know the habits, and every country is different. In many ways, in how you eat food, what you eat, what you drink, etc. So even the Anglo-Saxon, American is different from Australia or England, and I learned that through my books and my lectures. So I think she has an opportunity to contribute to something about the culture, and
amazing.
Why not?
Amazing.
And then
This reply I heard first time, so thank you so much. I mean, so elaborated reply in terms of how was I the chosen one?
And so you decided to follow up the invitation, and you actually bought flight tickets to Paris.
Not at all. We drove to Paris.
You drove to Paris.
We drove to Paris because we had to pick up from Tuscany our first little puppy.
I thought you were in wine business, but it's a puppy business now.
So, and we decided to go together with our family, and that's another story. But we ended up in hot Paris, and before that, I had just told Mireille this idea that maybe we could have her exhibition in Tallinn at some point, and she was like, "No way! This could be amazing idea." And when I read this email, and I thought we were just Tallinners here, and we can actually excite someone in these terms. And she was extremely humble, saying, "You have to first come and see. Maybe you don't like my work."
Aww.
And
well, yes.
that was really I make a blunt joke. Then at least we love Paris. So
did you? Did you love Paris?
We
did you
went
love the
and
work?
we took along some friends, Marika and Christian. So we had a bunch of people going from the edge of North Europe to Paris to meet art. It was this amazing area of galleries, and I mean, this is high end.
Was it your very first solo exhibition in Paris?
Yes.
And now it's here in Tallinn. Is it somewhere else as well? You just recently started with.
It is online. It is online.
It's online, yeah.
The paintings.
From Paris to Tallinn, I wouldn't expect Tallinn to be the second choice, but I'm super glad it is, and it's here. And your works are very colorful.
Yes.
And you have abstract paintings there, like Annely mentioned, over the different seasons. So that's how the exhibition is built up. When you are painting, how much do you keep the audience in mind? Do you think about the people who are looking at your work, or you're more putting your emotion into it?
Yeah, no, I have to admit that I don't think about anybody, and I'm in a world by itself, which is very different from the writing experience. And I never thought about selling them or so. I did them for my own pleasure and to give some to friends occasionally and all that. So it's more about how I feel, and it's all about how I feel. And that's why they are so, you might say, all over the place. You know, there are flowers. There's a range of flowers. There's one range of still lifes. There are scenes from Provence. There are, in New York, I have a lot of things from New York and Paris also. And it's only lately that I have sort of found my voice, I'm not so sure yet, but I have that encouragement from real painters, like professional painters, people who have studied the Beaux-Arts, who have, one of my mentors is this famous Danish painter who is 80, who started painting when he was 16, and study and lived in Rome, and I trust him. And he's the one who said to me, color, you have something with colors. And then when he saw my first abstracts, he said, this is going to be your voice. Wow. And I'm like, what is he talking about? But I've noticed that I am leaning to more and more of those. That doesn't mean that, I still have, my husband, for example, loves flowers. So for his birthday, I might do something, just like that, or birds. But I really felt that for the first time, I'm doing my own kind of emotional things through abstract. Yeah.
And I've noticed that you don't name your works. You don't give them titles.
No, but that's on purpose because, there are two schools of painters. Some who give them a title and you take it for what it is, and it makes you look at the painting in a different way. And then the other, many painters I talked to said, I don't put a title. And I am on that category in that, if you buy one, or if you like one of my painting and you want to know what it is, I will tell you the title and the story behind, because everyone has a story behind. But I don't, that's not the purpose of it. I want you to look at it and, and get some emotions. And whether you like it or you don't like it, and what you see in it or don't see in it, or, and then it changes. And including for me, I looked at, when I put these 80 paintings together to send to Paris, I had looked at some which were in a cupboard, and I saw something totally differently that was what I had in my head.
Okay. So even your own perspective changes.
So, that's that's the attitude coming back, the curiosity and the changes, and because we are never, tomorrow we are not what we are today in many ways.
Absolutely.
Life changes in little ways, Yeah, we have our basic core and our values and all that, but so you have to be open to that. And I think painting gives me that kind of great source of joy, of seeing things. So last night I was discussing with one young man who was looking. He had 3 he liked, but he had a purpose and a place he wanted to put them in his house. And he told me what he saw, and it was like,
Interesting.
Yeah. At some point I saw that, but this was not initially what I had in mind when I painted that. So to see that someone else came up with this was kind of a joyful, conversation and sharing.
Amazing. So your works don't have titles, but they do have prices. And now we get to the money part of art. How do you price them, or who sets the price?
Well, not me, because, who am I? I have no idea. And, I often go to galleries in New York and I see these people like me who didn't paint all their life and all that, and they go like, $25,000, and I'm like, well, who can buy that? And, I talked to the gallery, and, oh, yes, we have collectors who come and all that. Look, my own boss in France, from LVMH, the owner of LVMH, a long time ago, had someone in his company go and look for young artists, and he bought Basquiat when nobody except in New York knew about who Basquiat was, and paid nothing for his paintings. And now they're worth, you see them in his museum in Paris, in the Gehry building in the Bois de Boulogne, in the LVMH Foundation. And they're worth, he doesn't want to sell them for now, but they're worth like millions and millions and millions.
Was it a gut feeling or just really good
Well,
knowledge and eye on
that's
it?
a story of life. Look, Van Gogh, he couldn't sell a painting in his lifetime, and now what they're worth. So that's how the business and the art and the collecting and all this becomes changed totally. And that's a very, element that the average person has a hard time dealing with, museum piece that are worth such incredible amount. But that's a part of the art world that is a business, and it is what it is. You go for it, you don't know, and you don't understand it. But some people do that with, as I said before, with stamps or books.
Absolutely. Do you buy art? I mean, from other artists?
Yes, and I remember the first art we bought when we were very young, and we had very little money. And we saw a piece. We were actually in Champagne, in a restaurant, in a 3-star restaurant. Was one of the first to put artists, local artists on their wall. And I saw these little dots and with a number, and I had no idea that you could buy them. And we loved that little piece. And at the end, I had an idea because I wanted to bring that chef to Champagne, to America. And he came to our table, we talked to him, and I said, who did that? And he said, oh, it's for sale. And it cost very little money. And my husband and I went back to our hotel, and at night we said, I think we want to buy this piece. And it's the first piece of art we bought.
And later on, were you still buying art based on feelings, or you
only on feelings. I mean, I don't care about the name, or of course I can't buy, a Picasso or something like that. But I was a good friend of Françoise Gillot, who was the only woman who left Picasso. And we talked a lot about all these things. And she was, and maybe it's a female approach, She was like me. She was never into the financial part. Of course, then it's a matter of you can afford or not. And there are lots of pieces I would have loved to buy, but I couldn't buy. But it's okay,
Do you sell any of your art pieces? Are you just buying, or are you selling some of, not your own, but
No.
some? No.
No.
If you buy them, they are
Oh
there
yeah,
forever.
we are very few, but they've been meaningful in our life because they bring memories, but they also the way we look at them and the way you can do that with my husband is not into book collecting, but he wrote a lot about Lewis Carroll, and there are a lot of people who collect Alice in Wonderland. And when I learned how much the first copy cost, I was like, wow. And my husband said, but Mireille, it's not different from painting from Picasso or Van Gogh, And it never occurred to me, but I wouldn't spend $10,000 on buying a book just to put in a cupboard.
Yeah.
But people get pleasure from it, and they open it and they read, and we go to these meetings of these collectors, and I'm amazed what they have. It's a great source of pleasure if you can afford it and it's your passion, and why not?
Yeah, but the earnings from your own paintings sales are all going to the charity.
Yes.
How much do you think about marketing those pieces? Because even if the money is not coming directly to you, you want to help the charities as much as possible.
Well, of course. I mean, I wish I could sell them all, but it's not that easy because it's a huge competitive world, and there are lots of paintings, and there are lots of people who don't really care about having a piece in their home. You know, they don't know what it is. I mean, it's the same thing like they don't know what the pleasure is of drinking a bottle of wine with friends, or buying books, you know, or anything that could bring you pleasure. So it's educating, and that's the purpose of our charities, educating, whether it's music or dance or art or whatever.
If I may say something in these terms, then I would say that marketing art would be something to show people that they can allow for themselves to be in the presence of art. And that is something that we hope to do in our small gallery as well, that art doesn't have to be elite. Art is not for rich people.
Can we talk about the numbers? What's where the prices of Mireille's works are starting from?
A couple of €100s up to four-figure prices, and this is also in terms of the size, of course, because there is a very practical thing about framing, which can be very sometimes. I'm not in here, but we could be saying that frame is just as equally priced as the artwork itself, and this is really to bring people closer to art, show that art is not something that we enjoy in the galleries once a year, I would say. In Paris, what I like that what we see on the streets, where is the new, it is the culture, where is the new opening, where is the new exhibition. Parents take their toddlers or small children, and this is the culture to go from a gallery to another gallery, to enjoy the presence of, and allowing the art to imbibe in yourself. I think this has a great impact on how we are as people, how we are as humans. So let's just allow art in.
Very good points. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's very true, you know, that to be exposed to that, and that's the objective of the foundation, you know, to give people, because I didn't have these opportunities. I would have loved to, you know, learn the piano, but my parents couldn't buy a piano. Or I would have liked to go to dancing school, but they didn't have a car to take me to the city where the classes took place. And by allowing these kids to experience that, it's not that they have to be the next great, best conductor in the world or the best dancer, but it's to give them the exposure, because I really believe that it changes your life. And you know, the picture book from being a child and listening to music, even if we couldn't go to concert or we couldn't play the instrument I wanted to, expose you to something that is very vital for
Life
the way
your
imagination,
your humanity, for what you become, you know. Otherwise, you're just a piece of rock, and your emotions are not being challenged.
So your foundation supports variety of different arts,
Yes.
and especially for kids or grown-ups as well.
Yes.
Both.
I mean, mostly kids and mostly students, you know, at the university level, from entrance to PhD. Like in PhD especially, where people have such a hard time now where jobs are very hard to get. And they need to go abroad to look at what's being done in their field, but they don't have $5,000 to do it for a month in the summer. Absolutely. And so this kind of training, you know. And I wish I could have more money to give more, but you know, you do what you can do, and it's rewarding to see how it changes their life forever, you know, in a small way, but forever.
Yeah.
So.
And if I now want to go and see your works and perhaps buy some, where I can do it? I heard it's online and also in gallery. Can you give me some pointers?
Yes, I will do that. It's Piiskopi Street 3.
So it's in Tallinn Old Town.
Tallinn Old Town. It is Toompea, the really upper Old Town. It's very approachable by foot and by en voiture, by car. So very welcome to come and enjoy. There are also copies of Mireille's books. So we have, it's not a traditional gallery. It's like a living room where you can sip a glass of wine to enjoy Mireille's writings on spot, and to let the art work on you. So very welcome.
Amazing. And also online, everybody can check it out. And there's an exhibition in Paris as well. Perhaps in New York, the next one.
Oh, I don't know. Who knows? But you know, in New York, it's easier because you can have people coming to the studio in your home. So
I would ask one more question.
Yes.
You have reinvented yourself several times. Is there going to be something like, are you going to pivot again? Is there going to be a next thing in your mind where the curiosity is taking you, or you are happily settled in artist life at the moment?
I am struggling right now, but I think there is my agent will laugh because, you know, 7 is my lucky numbers. And when I finished my 6 and I told her that I was not going to write any books anymore because I had said what I wanted to say, and, you know, that's it. She said, well, you know, there's one missing. And I said, well, Kathy, you always do 2 at a time, so that wouldn't be my lucky number anyway, because it would have to go to 8. But I think I have a French woman, number 7, coming, and it has to do with art, actually.
Wow. So it goes the full
circle.
So
it goes a full circle, and maybe that, you know, time is of the essence. So it's not going to be an 800-page novel, but I still have a few things to say, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
I hope.
I would talk to you guys here hours and hours, but our time for today is over. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing your love towards art and wine and all your knowledge around it.
Thanks for asking. Thank you.